This lesson discusses sending mail using the PHP mail command. The topics include: why is it important? What are the requirements? What is send mail? How do you send to multiple recipients? What are some additional headers? And how do you send an HTML email? First of all, the importance of email is that email comprises the primary form of communication between yourself and your website customers. By properly handling email, you will be able to respond to customer inquiries and to increase customer satisfaction. In order for PHP Mail to function, there's a program called SendMail which needs to be available on your server. If you installed the XAMPP package on your server, XAMPP will automatically include the appropriate email program. In the case of XAMPP on Windows, for example, you'll notice there's a folder called SendMail in which there's a SendMail executable. There are also other programs, such as Mail to Disk, which is used for testing purposes. The Mail to Disk program will write email messages out to the mail output folder in the form of text files. Another possible alternative is under the Working Files area for this chapter. We have created for your use a SendMail shell script, which can be used in Linux and Mac environments, or the SendMail batch file, which can be used in the Windows environment. These two scripts call a PHP script SendMail, which simply displays the output of the mail message as it would have been delivered. For the SendMail program to function properly, you need to indicate its location in the SendMail path directive in the PHP INI file. The PHP INI file is located under XAMPP PHP. In this example, the XAMPP package installed under Windows, the default SendMail program is Mail to Disk. This can easily be modified, as you can see on line 1141 in this example, the SendMail.exe program, or as mentioned earlier, you could specify the chapter files for this chapter and use either SendMail or SendMail.bat. Looking now to the first code example, we give you some initial setup instructions, looking at the PHP INI file, making sure you modify the SendMail path, etc. Now, looking at the first example of the mail program on line 27, as you can see, we simply say mail, followed by to, subject, message, and additional headers. The to parameter represents the recipient of the mail, in this case, test@unlikelysource.com. The subject is what the user will see in their inbox. The message is the actual body of the message which will be sent. The additional headers include things such as from, CC, BCC, reply to, and a number of others. In this example, we're simply using the from header. You indicate from, space, and the name of the email address that originates the message. The additional headers will normally include a carriage return and a line feed at the end. The carriage return and line feed is represented by \r/n. They need to be in double quotes so that interpolation takes place. We then concatenate to the headers using the concatenate operator, xmailer PHP, and the current version, which is returned by the PHP version function. This tells the email server that the PHP has originated from an automated PHP application. Moving now to the browser, we can execute the first example, and then move over to the mail output folder, and let's have a look at the results. So as you can see, the Mail to Disk program wrote an email message, which was exactly what was composed using the first example. Looking now to the second example, to add additional recipients, you simply separate the email address using a comma. So in this example, we are going to send the same message to multiple addressees. Notice on line 15, we are enclosing the mail command inside an if statement. The reason for this is that the mail program will return a Boolean true if the sending of mail was successful. If false, you know that there was a problem sending the email, allowing you to display an appropriate message to your users. Moving now to the browser, let's execute the second example. Notice because we used the if statement, the sending was okay. Looking at the output folder, you'll notice we now have a second example, noticing that there are 2 recipients. In the third code example, we show the use of additional headers. We've already looked at the from header on lines 13, 14, and 15. We are including CC, BCC, and finally the Xmailer PHP as indicated earlier. Notice again that the additional headers all end with a carriage return line feed except for the last one. Otherwise, the syntax is the same as the previous message. Moving back to the browser, let's execute number 3. Looking at the output folder, you'll notice we have an additional message indicating from CC, BCC, etc. And finally, looking at the fourth code example, we see what is required to send an HTML email. The only difference between an HTML email and a regular email is the fact that the message includes HTML tags, and you have 2 additional headers which need to come first. The first header indicates the MIME version. The second header indicates the content type as text HTML. It's also important to indicate the character encoding. In this case, we're using the standard ISO 8859-1. Otherwise, the email message is identical to the previous one. Moving over to the browser, we execute. We go to the output folder, looking at the last example, and as you can see, we have HTML. Now, so far, it's been of interest to look at the testing capabilities. However, it's of more interest to view the results on a live mail server. In order to accomplish this, we need to move over to our hosting environment, using the appropriate facilities, uploading the information to the appropriate folder and domain where your hosting account is located. So in this example, we'll upload the sample files that we've seen so far, and then we will test the result in a real mail client. Again, using the tools provided by the web hosting provider, we locate the appropriate files, and then we upload them to our server. We will then execute on the live server. So we'll go ahead and pause now, fill out the rest of the screen, and then have a look at the results. Okay, we'll perform the upload. We will then be in a position to execute the live files. So moving now to the live website, we first look at the email client, which is test@unlikelysource.com. As you can see, there are no files in the folder. Okay, going to the live server, we execute the first sending program, the second sending program, the third one, and the fourth one. Then we go to the email client, refresh, and you can see we have 4 examples. First, the simple send. The second one with multiple senders indicated. The third example with a CC and a BCC. The BCC, of course, we don't see. The BCC stands for blind carbon copy. And finally, the HTML email. And you'll notice we've got an H1 tag, an HR, and an I tag to give us italics. So in review, why is it important? Email forms one of the most important ways in which customers can contact you. You can also confirm a new user who wants to sign up for your website. What are the requirements? You need to have the SendMail binary available. What is SendMail? SendMail is a program which delivers mail. Most web hosting providers will include SendMail on your hosted website by default. You cannot send mail from your local development environment until you have installed SendMail or its equivalent. The XAMPP installation will do that for you. How do you send email to one or more recipients? You use the mail command specifying to, subject, message, and additional headers. For multiple recipients, simply separate the email addresses with commas. Common additional headers include from, CC, and BCC. Finally, how do you send an HTML email? You add 2 additional headers, one for MIME type, the other for content type. This concludes our discussion of sending mail using the PHP mail command.